Welcome to the Dave Chang Show, part of the Ringer Podcast Network, presented by Majordomo Media. Thank you, Yola Tango, as always. Hey, don't forget to check out the full video episodes and clips of the show on our YouTube channel at The Dave Chang Show. And Recipe Club will be back very soon, and maybe we'll get a guest appearance by Chef Paul Carmichael, who is our guest today. Stay tuned, and you can also check out video episodes and clips of seasons past on our YouTube channel at Recipe Club Official. And you can head on over to YouTube and subscribe. Today we have special guest. He's been on a couple times, Chef Paul Carmichael, who has been with Momofuku for a long time, on and off. And Paul was last on the show during the peak of the pandemic when he was based out of Sydney, Australia. The man, the myth, the legend. We're going to talk about his upcoming new restaurant, Kabawa, in a Pre-Opening Diaries. Then we'll have our first Moifa of the year. But welcome, Paul. What's up, man?
What's up? Hi, everybody. What's good, Ying? What's good, DC? It's nice to be back. Guy. It's actually quite good to be back on this pod, as the young people would say. Yeah.
Are they saying that? I don't know.
I don't know, man. It just made that up. It sounded right. It felt right, Ying.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the United States, buddy. How long have you been back?
I've been back about 6 months now. Okay. Came back in the peak of summer. It was hot as balls. I was like, God damn. And no, it's cold. I'm like, it's nothing like Sydney, I'll tell you that much.
Did you pick up any, Dave, have you noticed in your conversations with Paul since he's been back, or over the time that he was in Australia, has he picked up any Australian isms?
Absolutely.
What you got?
Well, the thing his patois actually has merged with Sydney, but you can't, the Aussie accent, so you can't actually tell the difference.
Right. It's some kind of crazy hybrid now, right?
Like, yeah, people think I'm Canadian now. Everybody's like, are you Canadian? I'm like, God damn.
Is that what we discovered? It's like,
so for those that don't know, Paul is from Barbados. Paul is from Barbados, and he spent a few years in Australia, and he's come back with actually an enhanced Barbadian accent.
But now it is amazing that we found out this is the first time in history probably that we found that Barbadian plus Australian equals Canadian.
No, plus American. Plus American. You got to add the American in there. It's like this mesh, and I'm like, oh man. Like, I was on the phone with a oyster supplier the other day, and we had this massive conversation. It was so fun, and at the end of it, he's like, "Are you from Canada?" And I was like,
I have, so we're going to do a Moif after we do a little Pre-Opening Diaries, but I wanted to ask something because, Chris and I have been talking about critics as of late, at least the first podcast of the year. And I was thinking, who would be the best? Who would we consider the best, most knowledgeable, most studious critic out there? And again, as great as Jay Gold was, there were certainly flaws in his game. But that is would be for anybody. And I would say he'd be probably best. And then Ruth Reich would be there, A.A. Gill,
I'd say Besha is up there.
Besha Rodell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Besha Rodell. Pete was pretty fun.
What about Mr. Nurse?
Oh, yeah, you got to talk about Pat, too, from Australia.
Yeah, I actually think Pat is a weirdo in the best possible sense.
Pat
he's given up the role of critic.
Yeah.
He had the most Goldian, I'm going to study weird things because I want to study weird things and know about weird things, about all kinds of cuisine. He did his homework. He was a real food nerd.
Yes.
And,
he had a very kind gentleman.
Yeah. Funny, great hang. He has the sort of the zeal of the great Andrea Petrini mixed with the studiousness of Gold and Nurse's own quirkiness. And I'd probably say, even though he's hung up his food critic hat, I think that's what makes a great critic. You actually have to fucking love it.
Yeah, I feel Petrini would be in there too, to be honest. Like,
Petrini would be a great critic, and I say this with all the love of my heart to Andy Petrini, if I could understand a goddamn word he ever said.
So again, for those that don't know who we're talking about, let's just give a quick. I'll let Chris describe everybody. So we're talking about food critics. So far, Paul has mentioned Besha Rodell. Who is she?
Mm-hmm. Besha is from Los Angeles, I believe, but has lived in Australia.
Besha's actually Australian.
She's from Australia. Sorry, she lived in LA for a time. She was at the LA Weekly. Reverse what I said, and then she has been in Melbourne, Australia for returned to Melbourne, Australia for quite some time now.
Pete Wells, what Paul has mentioned, who I think the both of us could not love or want to murder each other simultaneously.
Pete Wells, the most recent full-time critic at the New York Times,
and the world's foremost expert on New York City sushi.
Yeah, he was fun as Paul just said,
and retired now.
And
bet you he wants that job back.
But Pat Nurse was the editor of Gourmet Traveler and was sort of the preeminent critic in Australia. He was mostly in Sydney during your time there, Paul, and then moved to Melbourne as well.
Yeah. Now he's managing the creative director for the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival.
That's right. But I think what you said, the last thing that you said, though, Dave, thinking about like the critics that you're identifying as great. Yes, it has something to do with studiousness, curiosity, research, knowledge. But like when I think about specifically Pat, I'm like, that fucking guy loves restaurants and loves to eat. And like there's a joy of discovery. There's like I eat with a lot of critics and food writers, and so often I'm like, do you hate this? I think you hate this. You know what I mean? And like Pat was always just like trying. We bring him up on the show all the time in terms of the hedonistic bump, something Dave likes to talk about, which is just like, you know, that first time you experience
that came from
something.
Pat.
Exactly. It's the first time you experience something fucking miraculous, culinarily or whatever. Like you're always chasing that dragon again. And like I feel like that is what has driven Pat to continue to like be in the restaurant world. Is just like he's chasing that high, which I think is like really what you want. You want somebody who wants to find greatness.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Ruth's tenure was at her end was at my beginning in New York, and from all accounts, she's like exactly the same. Like a person that just loves restaurants, loves food. You know, her writing's impeccable. You know, I really I read a bunch of it over the course of my time when it was at Aquavit in the late 90s. And I'm like, she exemplifies that sort of like vibe, you know? Like it didn't come off to me like it was like, hey, this was a job. This is like something I actually love and live, you know? And
so
Pat's like that too.
We'll move on after this, but the question I have for Mr. Carmichael is, we have a generation of critics now where they don't necessarily have the platform of Ruth. Ruth was sort of at the pinnacle, I think, of New York Times sort of power before the advent of the internet. Like she literally could make or break a restaurant. And not to say that critics don't have that power, but it was very different when that was the only place, at least in New York City, that had that kind of power. But today, I feel like we have a new generation of critics. You have different ways, whether it's social media, different websites. So I feel like it goes into two different camps. You have critics that are sort of carryovers of an older generation, right? And then you have the new guard, and there's no one really in between. So you have people that are in the twilight of their careers, have been reviewing for 15, 20 years plus, and people that are just starting out. Maybe they worked at Infatuation, maybe the New York Magazine, maybe the LA Weekly, and they're building their resumes up. And I feel like we're going to be in a period where that, even though there's less food critic jobs, there will be filled by younger people. So the question I have is, how legitimate is it to be reviewed by somebody that might have the gusto, might have the zeal, but is lacking the experience? Does that matter? Because my caveat is, Frank Bruni, who clearly treated us and Momo very well, he very much, when he started, Paul, remember, he's like, I don't know shit about food. I know everything about politics and the presidency, blah, 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 but I don't know nothing. And he's going in from that perspective as, I'm just trying to be a good diner and understand it. And I think along his sort of tenure, he became more knowledgeable about food. So what do you think? Is it okay for critics that don't know as much about gastronomy to try to review you? Because I just don't think it necessarily makes sense to, review something where you don't understand all the things that are going into one's food.
Well, while there's that side of it, which I 100% agree with, there's the other side too. It's just like, if you're a person that could truly immerse yourself into a space and a situation and take out what you're getting from that experience and deliver that to a wide audience, because the audience that they're writing for, the majority of people aren't experts, right? And it's like, if you can convey a feeling, if you can convey like, hey, this place was dope because of X. I think that's fine too, because a lot of times, like, it's not always just about like the food. I, as a chef, I kind of want it to be, but like, it's just not. And if you can have people that could like dive in and if they're, if they don't know the difference between, I don't know, Béarnaise and Hollandaise, like, fine. But if they could see, like, truly see what a restaurant's trying to offer and distill that down to the public, I think, like, if that in of itself is a gift, and you don't have to have, I guess, a wealth of food experience to like deliver said point of view, if that makes any sense.
I mean, it does, but it's unfortunate for people that are starting out that the culinary literacy is higher than ever before. So even the readership will have more knowledge than any previous generation. But it's just physically impossible for somebody to like eat around the world. So it's nobody's fault. It's hard to acquire this information. So I'm just having a conversation. It's something that I feel is an ongoing conversation.
And
so
I think it's time too. That'll take time, because all the people that we've spoke about, right? Like Besha, Ruth, Pat, Frank, even Sam Sifton, whoever, Goldie, these are people that have been in it for a long time, and they've traveled, they have eaten a diverse amount of like cuisines. So it's not like only French. They've like been to Thailand, they've been to Vietnam, they've been to the Caribbean.
Have they?
Actually, I'm just guessing. I'm guessing here they've been, but they've definitely, but like they've seen a lot, and.
But this is where I disagree with you. I disagree with you that you assume that they've seen a lot.
Who, people like Pat?
No. Well, like Pat might have, because Pat travels a lot. I know that, but has everyone else? You know what I mean? Like, the reason I'm getting to this point is this, Paul, and this is a weird segue to get there. And this is Pre-Opening Diaries for your new restaurant. In a strange way, when you were at Seiobo and Renee, Pat, everybody was saying like, this is a new way of understanding what gastronomy could be. This is an attempt to make the great Caribbean restaurant in Australia. And what is it? Is it Australian food? Because it's all with local ingredients. It was this hodgepodge, but it was a melting pot. It just made sense. Ultimately, it was like, it just is the food that you've always wanted to make since your sort of project at CIA, your thesis, right? The food of the Caribbean. And I think about this a lot because of you. I've certainly gained a greater appreciation of the future food that is of those islands, right? Because I love it, because I did not know at the time the history and the real merger of cuisines over the past 100+ years. It's unbelievable. It's the kind of food I love. And I didn't know all of those things, right? So for whatever reason, I feel like Australia, they didn't know, right? Basha being Australia, I remember talking to her when she was doing the fact check. I remember talking to Pat and other critics in Australia. They were so open to it because they were honest about their ignorance of what this cuisine was, you know? And at the end of the day, they just knew it was delicious, you know? And I think at the end of the day, this always goes back, do you need, it's like the age-old question, like, I remember when Ferran was having this argument with Juan Maria Arzak when we're eating Korean food. Do you need to have a priori knowledge, or where you have to understand the food in order to find it to be delicious? I don't think so. I don't know, but here we know you're going to be reviewed for Kabawa. I think a lot of people are going to come down, check you out. You had Capo at Mapesh years ago. You were doing it. I don't think people understood. Kwame's clearly educated sort of New York to, his food isn't only of the Caribbean, but there's certainly some dishes inspired by it. But for the most part, I don't know if people are literate enough about the food of the Caribbean.
I hope we can help there at Kampala. Yeah, I mean, look, man, it's like you said, this is something that's been like in my brain for a long time. It feels good to be back in New York cooking. It's actually the first time I'm actually gonna cook in New York, just me, like coming out of my brain cooking, which is fun, which I'm actually quite looking forward to it. But going back to the original sentiment, I think there are a lot of people here that know about Caribbean food, like within New York City. I think over the years, people have crossed over, like to Brooklyn, to Flatbush, to Queens, to try out little restaurants that never got any shine, and now they do. And I think there's a large Caribbean audience here as well. So I'm not like I feel like people know what they're going to be, kind of what they're going to be getting into at Kabawa. I think what's going to be different about this space is that I want to try with my team to show the breadth of the entire region and not have it just limited to like Jamaica and Trinidad. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that people are gonna it's gonna resonate with people. I think if anything else, if for nothing else, it should be pretty tasty. You know, um, it's 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 the one thing I'm decently good at. Making shit taste good.
For those that don't know, right, in chef circles, Paul is considered one of the great chefs, not just in Australia, but in the world, right? That you can just ask the great Rene Redzepi, our good friend, who literally was like, dude, this is ridiculous, right? Paul's won Best Chef Australia, right? He is widely considered, even though he would never, proclaim it himself, like one of the very best out there, bar none. So I just don't know if people ever, I hope that people will be accepting of a cuisine that ultimately just tastes good. But, I'm not worried about the people that are understanding of the Caribbean food. I'm more curious as to how somebody that would walk in. So walk me through this, Paul.
Yeah.
If I know nothing and I read, hey, eater hot list or whatever fucking stupid list that's out there, got to check this out. All right, let's go. Let's get date night. We got a babysitter. Let's go down. We go to 8 Extra Place. Hey, we used to eat here. Used to be Co. Now it's Kabawa. What's going on? So what do you want people to experience? What should they sort of look forward to, et cetera, et cetera?
At Kabawa?
Yeah.
Here's the big circle of life at Kabawa, as what's the name? Mufasa? It would say.
Yes.
It is
Mufasa and Rafiki. Whatever.
Truthfully, I want people to think of that space as a space that's warm, that's inviting. I want people to leave feeling good, right? I think the dining experience is, a sum of all of its parts. So part of it being food, part of it being service, part of it being temperature, the sound, the music, how the chairs feel, how high the counter is, all those things make up an experience. How people talk to you, and I want the people that work at Kabawa to feel like they could be themselves and that they could be authentic to who they are. And I want people to feel like a generosity and a genuineness coming from this space. And that's gonna be hard to pull off, but that's really the MO for Kabawa, Like I said, food is like one part of it, and I definitely want to be able to take people on a food journey, to show them different things that different islands have to offer. But more than that, I really want people to feel fucking good when they walk out the door. And this is gonna sound really weird, but someone asked me, like one of my coworkers asked me, so what do you mean by that? And I was like, have you ever seen the new Top Gun? Like, it's like I was a big Top Gun fan when I was a kid. I watched the second one and I left there on cloud 9, right? And kind of, I want to convey that feeling to people through the experience, right? And yeah, that's truly it.
It's funny, Paul. Chris and I had a whole discourse when Top Gun Maverick 2 came out about why can't we have restaurants that make you feel that elation, right? Is it a perfect movie? No.
No, it's imperfect, but it was
the best movie I saw all year.
Can I ask you about this is like a super macro question for both of you as chefs and restaurateurs, though. Like, of course, that is you want people to leave your restaurant feeling fucking elation, feeling on cloud 9. Like, doesn't what percentage that? I mean, I feel like Dave's whole thing has always been like you always talk about, if I can make people quiet when the food hits, if I can get them to stop talking with how delicious it is, then I've fucking succeeded. And inherent to that goal is look, I can't control if you're having a good date or a bad date, or you're having your dinner company is shitty, if the people you've invited are arguing. I can't control for any of that. So how do you, I mean, every single table is going to have their own shit going on. As a restaurateur, is that the goal? You got to be I just need to shut them up, whether they're having a good conversation or bad, with the food being so fucking good, because I cannot control for them.
Well, from my perspective, obviously you got no control because you don't have control over people's lives, right? You don't know what's happening, but that's part of our job as people in the service industry and people in hospitality. It's we got to give part of ourselves every day to serve, and I think, at least my philosophy is if you set up a structure to care for people, you're not going to win all the time, right? People are going to leave pissed off, but at the end of the day, if the majority of the people could feel that genuine care and hospitality, they will leave happy, whether I've dined out a lot in my life, and whether or not put it this way. I went to a restaurant recently, which will remain unnamed, but the food wasn't very good. it really wasn't.
Uh-huh.
But I left there so happy because the couple that owned the space were so kind, so generous, so nice. And they don't know me from a bar soap, right? And they're just like, oh my God, have you ever had blah, blah, blah? Have you been here? Da, 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 da.
Was it in Manhattan or Brooklyn?
It was in Queens.
Okay.
And,
so now I am putting into ChatGPT restaurants owned by couples in Queens, and I will share with everybody the results.
There's going to be a lot. But it was so nice, right? They were so kind. And, I think there's power in that honest hospitality. And I want us to bring that back to the city. And because things have gotten so formulaic around the world, and they're whoa,
what do you mean by that, Paul Carmichael?
I mean, we've gone to formulaic? We've gone to a point where things are a good restaurant means A plus B equals C, right? Like it's like this thought process. And I think that's wrong. I think that there are many ways to pluck a chicken or skin a cat or whatever, whatever you're gonna name it. And I just want us to try here to like be ourselves. I guess that's it. To be who we are gonna be, and our intent, like the actual intention, is to just make people have a good, not make people have a good time, facilitate people having a good time.
And then how different is that than when you were at Seiobo, and you wanted people to feel the same thing, right? So is it going to be the same as Seiobo?
I think the philosophy is the same. It will definitely not be Seiobo because like Seiobo is like time, place, people. Like I tell people, Seiobo for me is like lightning in a bottle, right? Like the timing was right. The people that were around me were correct. Like everything. The point of my life that I was in was particular. Like Seiobo had a lot of things that lined up for that place to be special. But I will say this, the one through line of all of that is that the intent of Seiobo and the intent of Kabawa will be the same. Will be to deliver excellence in a package that people could like relate to. At least that's how we felt. And that's how I feel today.
So the new restaurant is in the space formerly occupied by Co and the Co Bar.
Yeah.
8 Extra place.
Legendary.
It's absolute fucking legend.
Legendary.
When you guys open a restaurant in a space that was a different restaurant before, like, is that a different challenge? Do you like, are you I don't know how to say this. Like, are you feeling the presence of like the past restaurant? Are you thinking about the past restaurant at all? Are you like, fuck, this is harder for us because this restaurant was set up this way and like ours is going to be a different style of service? Like, what is that like? Whether it's, I mean, the original Noodle Bar was in a former restaurant space too. Like, what is it like when you open in a space that was a restaurant before?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a little bit different for me because like I've been with Momofuku for so long. I consider the people at work that call family, and for me, it's not even feeling the pressure of like this amazing restaurant that came before. It's more like, like I kind of want to just do right by all the people that came before me, right? And that's the pressure that I'm putting on myself. But for me, it's just the space is a space. Everybody, unless you got like buku bucks, every restaurateur goes into most times a space that's been occupied before, So I'm not stressing about the fact that it was called. I'm stressing more of like I want to be able to honor the people that came before me, right? Who I consider friends and family,
Shout out Sean Gray, who has his new restaurant in Jersey, Sergeant's Inn. Well, I want to check that out.
And Su Wong Ru.
Is she there?
No, she's not there. It would be amazing though if she was, but she's not there. But you gotta shout out Sue because
of course Sue's the glue.
Yeah,
Sue's the glue.
Yeah,
Glue Wong Ru. Where are you? Like right now, today at 4:00 your time with the restaurant opening in like less than a month, or the bar side opening in less than a month. I think like what's going on right now
in my head or
yeah, and just the process of like opening a restaurant, like situate us.
I'm gonna tell you right now, in my head, I'm like a black swan, bro. Calm on the outside. But my feet underneath are just crushing it. Like I'm just like, I'm so stressed out underwater, bro. But it's truly a journey opening a restaurant. There's so many moving parts between like construction and design and marketing and branding, and like there's so many moving parts. I think I've even mentioned R&D and food, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, so like seriously, like for those of us who have never gone through this, you're a few weeks out. Like, what was your day like today, yesterday? Like literally, what did you do?
So today I had a photo shoot with Grub Street. So we took some photos, etc., etc. And then I rocked up over here to chat to you two lovely gentlemen. And
shit sounds easy, Paul. Take some photos, talk to us.
Yeah, take some photos, smile a little bit.
What are you expecting? What's happening? Tell
just
so how hard this is.
So
man.
chill, dude. But honestly, for the most part, it's like the day is like it's finding those little things that are going to make a difference, right? So it's like, well, it's the right glassware, the right plateware, or the sound system, or like literally the height of the chairs, like all those little things that you're trying to like key in and discuss and be like, all right, what is going to make a difference? I think the things that stress you out the most about openings is like construction timelines and deliverables, because you could order something and then they're like, it's going to take 7 weeks. And you're just like, all right, well, I need to open in 5, right? Those sort of things are like the stressful things about opening. You could run into permitting problems, like, but
where's the menu right now?
The menu for the bar is boxed, as they would say in Australia. It's like boxed up, ready to go. We're still doing R&D for the main dining room. And that's it. I go in. Some days I get to cook, some days I don't. Like a day like yesterday and today, I didn't cook a damn thing. I just made.
Whose taste do you, and Dave too, I'm wondering this, like when you're developing R&D, like whose taste do you trust for feedback, actually?
It's weird for me. I go off like straight up facial expression, right? So like I don't, if I make something, first of all, I'm gonna make it a bunch of times and I'm gonna try it, right? Like, because I'm gonna be harder than anybody else on myself than they could be to me. Then when I feel like it's at a spot, even if it's not done yet, but I feel it's at a spot, I'll start like passing it around to people. Then I just watch their face and how they interact with said thing, right? So like say I make a thing and I cut up a bunch of it and I put it on the table and I hand you a piece and I'll watch your face. And then if you go grab another piece, I was like, all right, I'm on something good. If you walk away without saying anything or like give me some weird ass fucking answer, then I'm like, I'm on the wrong track, right? Right? But that's generally how I do it. And I think with food and dishes, like there's something for everybody, right? So like the thing that's gonna resonate with you might not resonate with me, but doesn't mean it's bad, right? It just means it's just not my thing. And you gotta, like, I think as a chef, you gotta like be able to acknowledge those things and be like, all right, to keep it simple, what are the top 10 things that people like love, right? And you try and play in that sandbox, right? And then you could like jump outside of that sandbox and be like, this one's for me. Let's see how many weirdos like me are gonna like it too. Right? But I mean, at least you got your core that people are gonna like.
I think, this is something we've talked about a lot before, is like making a menu and judging it not by someone saying it's good, but by the expression. Like that doesn't lie. And I know that we have chefs just starting out with their first menu, or a sous chef putting on their first dish. I can't stress enough what Paul just said. You have to trust your gut, and your gut needs some data that words can't sort of fill. You got to look at someone's expression and see the joy. That same kind of Top Gun 2 elation, right? And I think that's because Paul's worked in a lot of open kitchens over the years. I've worked in a lot of open kitchens. I think there are pros and cons to working in open kitchens, for sure. There's 99% of the time I wish I was in a closed kitchen. The only good part of an open kitchen is you get that instant It was twofold: instant gratification, but also instant data read on guests. You know very quickly if a dish is going to smash or it's not. And I don't know if people use that enough. I feel like more and more when I talk to people, they look at the sales. I'm like, no, it sells really good. Servers say it's very good. Customer response is very positive. I was like, well, that's one thing, but you got to sort of feel the vibe on that as well.
You know, like I feel like when people are just like, you know, if someone comes back all the time for a specific thing, or they like freak out when they taste the thing, or they ask for more, like those things like truly matter, because like, especially if that's happening over and over again, right? You're just like, something's on. And I think also for me at this point in my life, I've gotten to a point where I have stopped cooking for me, and I've started cooking for others, right? Like what I put on a plate or what I want in a glass at Kabawa are things that I truly believe that it would resonate with people. And I'm not trying to like be in my head, and I just want to be free with the cooking there, right? So I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's got to be this and it's got to be that. I'm like, you know what, man? Let's not overthink things and just be loose and relax with the cooking, right? And when I say that, I don't mean like you just rock in, you use the shittiest ingredient, and you just put some salt and pepper on it and send it, right? What I do mean by that is like, if X person, if 45,000 people like steak and I don't like steak, that doesn't matter. I'm making steak, right? Like, because people want steak, and it is not about me, because I'm not the diner, right? I'm the chef. So that's just how I think about it now. And then, like I said to you before, it's like there's one or two things that you could put on there for yourself, but the majority has got to be for the people, you know, because there'll be another weirdo, right? Like yourself, and be like, sure, they'll enjoy that, but like, I'm cooking right now. I want to cook for the people.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk particulars then. You said the bar menu is boxed. Give us a little break down a couple of dishes for us.
Some tidbits, a little sneaky peek. All right, so like the bar, truthfully, in all honesty, from the bottom of my heart, has been an idea in my soul for the past, I want to say, like 10 years. Like, I just wanted to do this bar. I am an avid lover of wine and cocktails. I have literally, my first travel outside of traveling from Barbados to New York, my first travel on my own dime was to go to Japan cocktailing. Not even eating, just full on cocktailing. People were just like, what'd you eat there? I was like, katsudon every day, but I went to all the fancy cocktail bars, right?
So I've actually never, just really quickly, I've actually never heard anybody use cocktail as a verb like that.
Well, I just made it up on the fly. You know, we were talking about Tom Cruise. It's a brand. Yo, listen.
So bar program.
So bar program and Bar Kabawa. I wanted to feel like a bar. I wanted to feel like you could go there and have a drink and maybe something to eat. But if you don't want to eat, you could just go get a drink. So the food programming, at least in my head, is very simple. It is indicative of things from the Caribbean region. And the core of the menu is, I want to say, a hybrid of the Jamaican and Haitian patty. Yeah. So like, let's just say there's going to be 7 to 8 cold dishes. Oysters. There's like a pickles, like salad thing, like some scallops. I'm putting black pudding and sauce on the menu. There's a sardine dish that my dad used to make me when, like after we like mowed the lawn. Was like my treat was like a molasses drink and sardines and avocado. So like shit you not, I've wanted to put sardines and avocado on a menu since like 2009. But I just couldn't figure it out. Like, A, I didn't have the confidence. B, everyone's like, oh, I'm in a fancy ass restaurant. Can't serve sardines and avocado. You know?
I mean, let's be honest. That sounds like a WD-50 combo if I've ever heard of. Lovey Wiley. I mean, honestly, I think this is a fucking bullshit. That story about his dad is a ruse. That is totally inspired by the great Wiley Dufresne. No question about it. It is going to be a gel-an encased avocado cylinder with essence of sardine set inside.
Floating as it comes to the table.
So you said the sort of central thing is like the Jamaican Haitian patty.
Yeah.
I feel like when you say like, oh, people in New York have a pretty good grasp on Caribbean food, I feel like most of those people are gonna be like, oh, I know patties.
Yeah.
So like, what is, that's the one where people are gonna think they're an expert in. So
yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
Which is going to be amazing.
Patties, like me. I know patties.
People like Dave are going to think they're experts in patties.
Do I have to order this? I know. I mean, I can get it at Golden Crust down the street.
Yeah. So what are you showing the Daves of the world who are going to be skeptical of the patty?
So which is going to be amazing, which I think is going to be a fun journey for us.
I've been to Jamaica. All right. I dated somebody that was born in
Jamaica.
I spent 4 nights at Sandals, Jamaica, and we had patties every day.
I've had a 6-pack of Red Stripe before. I know patties.
Well, the patties there are going to be split in two. So there's going to be what I'm calling they're both non-traditional, but one will be baked and one will be fried. The baked one is like a hybrid of the Jamaican and Haitian patty. So the Jamaican patty is in like yellow, like flaky pastry with filling. The Haitian one's usually like a puff pastry sort of vibe. And basically what we're doing is a puff that's yellow and a little bit sweet, like the Jamaican one. And the fillings for that will be pretty traditional, whereas the fillings for the fried one are a little bit more, I don't want to say creative, but a little bit more like different. You won't find them in a patty shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would like me to tell what's in the fillings, you say go, Chris, and I will go.
I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing a filling or two. I wouldn't mind hearing a non-traditional filling. Come on now.
All right. So like for the fried patties will be like pepper pot, duck, and foie gras is one.
Oh, fuck you.
Right. And then the traditional one would be like cumin goat.
My goodness gracious. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You keep on saying like, this has been an idea in your soul for forever and ever. Chang, I feel like, did this all come together quickly, smoothly, easily? Like it's a no-brainer, right? It's like, you love Paul. Paul's fucking great. We have a space. Let's do this.
Paul and I have known each other a long time, and we've talked about that many times before. I'm not in the day-to-day of the restaurant, and I couldn't imagine somebody sort of. No, there's very few people, like everything Paul just said. These are all philosophies that I hold near and dear, right? I don't think there's anybody that could capture the spirit of Momofuku. And I've always said that Momofuku can be anything and everything. If we wound up serving it never had to be anything. It is a moving target. And it never has to be moored or anchored to anything. The whole goal was it has to be delicious, has to be innovative, has to be fun, has to be of value. And I can't imagine anybody sort of taking the creative helm other than Paul. And I think Paul has some things he wants to get done, as he's just sort of mentioned, right? A place to serve sardines and avocado, etc. I think he has some more things he wants to explore before sort of the next chapter and what he wants to do. So I have no I had always hoped that it would be this way, you know?
Mm-hmm. I know you had. You've talked about it in private for many years.
So, yeah, I mean, like, and Paul knows I've been trying to like get him to do something like this for a long time. So,
I mean, I ask because, like I said, I mean, like obviously we started this conversation talking about critics, and this restaurant will have critics. They will come in and review the restaurant, and I sense this sort of protective instinct. You know, I've been trying to wrap my head around it, Dave, frankly, like thinking about the conversations we're having, and I'm like, it feels like a protective instinct for you just to be like, you have
no,
so
it's not
much
protective.
faith
I have faith. I want him to get a fair shake, and more importantly, it's a clean slate. You know, like we made some decisions because I don't want the next generation of Momo to be burdened with the good or the bad of myself, you know, in the previous leadership. So this is as much as a fresh start as possible. So I hope that people come in with those sort of an empty vessel of sorts. But
yeah, I mean, to that point, I mean, like, I didn't, you know, I think we should move on to the Moif soon here, but I've been thinking as we're talking just about like, you know, this idea of the clean slate and knowing everything, and like to any food critics who are still hate listening to us talk about this right now, like I will say, I feel like food media painted itself into a corner in a lot of ways for a reason that's not dissimilar, like what you're asking for, Dave. Like you don't want people talking out of their ass, making shit up, saying stuff that's not correct, getting our food wrong, getting Paul's food wrong, getting, you know, every culture wrong. But I think that's like kind of what food media wanted to. I think that over the last however many years, it's been like, oh, we got so many things wrong in the past, we've got to correct. And the correction meant like we always have to be authorities now.
Listen, where are most of the critics from? Honestly, if you look on a spreadsheet, I think over 75%, seriously, of the legitimate food critics of the past 50 years came from Ivy League institutions. Mm-hmm. Okay? Where do most of those people come from? Do they come from places of color or places where white people have grown up? So, like, I'm just telling you the fucking truth that if I'm a critic now of a magazine or a newspaper, and I'm a graduate of, you know, said Ivy League institution, how the fuck am I going to converse and talk about doubles? How am I going to talk about the best oxtail I've ever had? How am I going to talk about goat when I probably had goat 3 times in my fucking life?
Right.
Okay. How am I going to talk about different ways of spice that is used? How am I going to talk about different kinds of peppers that are used? Unless I'm sitting or dining with somebody that is from those islands, that knows those things. Chris, you know exactly what I'm talking about because we know something that most people don't know. Oftentimes, critics bring the expert to explain to them what the fuck they don't know. That's the hidden fucking secret, the hidden rule that nobody fucking really talks about from a critic's perspective. How many times does a critic go to a cuisine or restaurant they know nothing about with an expert to explain to them as a sort of cheat sheet?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I remember this very clearly. I don't know who talked about this podcast. I remember somebody in a review being described as Asian expert, being brought in with them, literally Asian expert. So yes, I mean, my point is between what you're talking about and what Paul said, which is just like, there is some value in somebody just like reviewing the experience of it and not knowing. I think that the fucking problem is that critics feel an obligation to speak from an authoritative place. I have to express expertise in this, even though I know I don't have it. And even though I know that bringing an expert with me doesn't lend itself to me either. That's all. Like at the bare minimum, I think we can try to do away with the idea that like you have to pretend or you have to project yourself as an expert if you're not.
That's all. It's like, I think there's a way to come about this where you're not trying to be an expert on anything. Just come in there.
You don't have to. You should do what Paul's saying.
Like it's fucking delicious.
That's
you know what I mean.
That's what Paul was asking for in the beginning. Like, listen, you're a person, right? We're all experts in being fucking people. So, like, what's your experience of the restaurant? Don't try to give. I mean, like, try in the sense of like keep eating at the restaurants, keep learning, get better at it. But you don't have to.
I'll give you a case, an example to Unjo's restaurant, Kawi, which was at the Hudson Yards, which was a victim of, the whole area shutting down during the pandemic. And, I harbor a lot of ill will because that restaurant was fucking outstanding.
Very, really
very much
spectacular,
fucking outstanding,
fantastic,
and
unfucking believable restaurant.
And people were like modern. It was modern Korean, and like this isn't Korean. I was like, do you understand what fucking modern Korean actually is? Right? They didn't even know. So they were judging it on Korean food that they understood that was 6 to 7 years old. They didn't know that, at that time, we talked about this, that currently Tokyo was 2019, 18, 19 was so incorporating a lot of kimbap into the futomaki. Futomaki is really kimbap, So like it was so modern and so current in terms of what was happening in Korea that how the fuck was a critic going to even know?
Right.
And I was like, fuck you guys, because they were judging it on what they thought Korean food was instead of just knowing this is fucking delicious. So yeah, am I protective of Paul? Yes. Don't come in with an empty fucking vessel and be like, this is just delicious. Because I know for a fact that Unjo's fucking food was goddamn delicious. There's not a fucking chance in hell that people they didn't fucking know.
Hold on. Hey, look. Here's where I'm gonna be the mediator here between. Listen, don't stress about that shit, Dave. Do not. Look, I have an incredible team around me. We are gonna do our best to create an incredible space for all humans that could come there. And I'm not stressed, man. Like, I'm stressed about getting this place open. I'm stressed about giving jobs to people that need jobs. Like that stuff I'm stressed about. Once we're up and going, I'm gonna be so excited to like just get in there and like, give a bit of myself to people. Like this for me is it for me. This is my last. Like this, I don't think I'm doing anything like this after this.
Do you have
maybe? And that's Paul. That's why I want the world to know. Listen, Kawi is probably going to close regardless because of the situations we couldn't control. I'm glad Unjo got praise. She won Food and Wine Best New Chef. But for me, it was like you need to understand that this is a special talent. Who gives a shit about the restaurant? It was like Unjo is one of the very fucking great ones. And I want the world to see that for you, as well. So I want people to know, like, shit, dude, Paul's one of the baddest ass motherfuckers alive.
While I do appreciate that, and I truly do, thank you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people care about me.
It does.
Like to me. What matters for me is like truthfully from the bottom of my heart, and it doesn't. I've gone on my way to like make myself a part of the community in the Lower East Side or the East Village, right? I've got like a pack of dogs that come to the alley, visit every day at 5 o'clock. Yeah, dude. The 8 Extra Place alley lit, dude. So, right. And I'm saying all of this because genuinely I want to give to people, right? And I want people to come in there and like just experience, right? Like I'm not trying to like reinvent the wheel, this is not gonna be a fancy ass restaurant. It's like we're just trying to like nourish people and like help them just freaking forget that their day was shit. Right?
I don't think that's good enough, Paul Carmichael.
Will you? All right, last question, and then I think we should do a
social responsibility to do more.
Yeah. Fuck me. Last question before we get into our moif. How confident are you you can sway Dave Chang on black pudding?
No.
Oh. I mean, you can't sway Dave Chang on anything, bro. Like I have known this for. Hey, you know the way to sway Dave Chang is to tell him it's like kimbap, and then he's gonna like it. And then he'd be like, huh, this is nice. But the black pudding that we're gonna put on isn't it's Barbados sauce, so it's like made from sweet potato.
Oh, you can get Dave on there. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, with pig's blood.
I'm gonna do two versions. I'm doing the traditional with pig's blood, and then one that'll be fully vegan.
Well, you know, Dave loves vegan food.
I'm vegan that day. One last thing I want people to sort of digest. It's not going to be a tasting menu.
No. So the MDR will be a prefix menu.
I wonder if this was a conversation in the past, Dave. Clapping.
Choice of 3. Look, man, I mean, like at the end of the day, Seiobo was a tasting menu. And I think there's a few things that fundamentally bothered me about Seiobo. And I kind of, that's why there are these two spaces here in the city, is because I hate barriers to entry, right? And if I'm gonna be a person that, from at least from my background, where I was not wealthy, the first restaurant I went to, I was in my 20s when I moved to New York, right? Like, it just bothered me that our price point boxed a lot of people out, right? And I didn't want that here. Now, understanding the economics of the restaurant and the space that we're in, that's why the barrier to entry is easy, right? Like, I want the student from around that's like not really making much money that can come in, right? But I also want somebody like me that eats out at places and, got a little bit of income that they could spend on food to come too, right? Like, and whereas the main dining room, like the price point isn't super cheap, but it's definitely cheap for New York for what you're gonna get, I think. Like, we're not doing like a $400 menu, but it's gonna be $150, $160.
A value. It's gonna be a value.
Value, right?
I want to end with this for you, Paul. And I think it's also important for any person that's starting out opening their first menu or their first restaurant, I mean. And it's something that I heard when I talked to the Michelin inspector. I don't know her name, but I would speak to her every time, and it's something that I had a hard time wrapping my head around, is that I think there is no question that you were going to have your food with a point of view, right? And I think that's so hard to come by in 2025 globally. Food with a point of view. And I know for sure there ain't no way anybody that visits Kabawa does not know your point of view on what the food's going to be and what that restaurant is about.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that I'm telling my team. It's like everything we do, and that's legit. Everything we do, I was like, it needs to have a point of view. We just can't just do things because we're doing it because it's trendy or it worked in the last restaurant we worked in. Like we have to do things with intent, and it's got to have a point of view.
You hear that, Michelin inspectors?
Dear God, Dave, you're not making this any easier for me.
Hey, I'm just saying, challenge.
Paul, you say this. Has this man's job ever been to make it easier?
No, I know. Believe me,
that's not his job.
Believe me, it's been a. When do we meet? When do we meet,
Inspector? When I want to eat, I think if I was flying to Cincinnati and I saw that there was a reservation available at Kabawa, I would go out of my way because I think it was a special detour.
Oh, God.
That's the definition of a certain number of stars. Worthy of a
And I would not fly. I would make sure I was going in a car with a certain set of tires.
If I was driving through the American countryside.
Listen, you want to hear another Australianism I picked up, Chris?
Yeah, what you got?
Stitch up. This guy's trying to stitch me up, man.
Let's take a break. We're going to come back with a quick moif. We're going to just do one moif, and we're going to go a little bit off script because that's what we do here.
We're an improv act.
We're an improv act. So this is a moif. It's more of not really a moif. It would probably be a new game, but let's rank your favorite. What is the best food in the world that is not your native origin? So you can't say the Caribbean. Chris can't say China. I can't say Korea.
All right.
All right.
Shit. Okay.
All right. One cuisine that reigns supreme that is not your mother cuisine.
That I will eat. So is this my belief or like?
No, that is just your belief. Your belief that is like by far the best. And we're here to offend.
Oh God. I'm so unoffensive. I would say, can I pick two?
Yeah, of course. You can pick as many as you want.
Let's go. I love Chinese food.
Canadian food.
Give me all the maple syrup. I do.
I agree with you.
Like I love
Chinese food.
I love Shanghainese and Cantonese food probably. Like they resonate with me quite a bit. I do have a strong love for both northern and southern Indian food as well. I truly love Goan food. I mean, I like a lot of food, man. I think Thai food slaps, but I guess there's a thread here with the food that I like. It's food that's punchy. It's food
that
that's
fucking tastes like something.
Yeah, that's full of like full of flavor. But then on a cold day like today, you know, a nice bowl of pasta would, you know, I would wrap up in that like
Okay, Paul. Now choose one. Choose one.
Goddamn international.
Yeah, now choose one. You can only choose one. I take it back.
One. That's me. That's how I am.
You got to choose one.
But if I to something I'd have to eat for the rest of my life, I'd probably go China.
Dave, I think that before you go, I think we have to further the restriction to say you cannot choose from your mother continent.
Okay.
So no Asian food for us.
Well, I'm so white.
All right. So Chinese food for Paul.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Mexico. I'm gonna go Mexico. That's gonna be mine.
Interessante.
What do you got, Dave?
Mexico.
Dave's going Russian.
You guys suck.
You fuckers took China and Mexico.
Dave's full Russian right now, dude. He's like,
this is how we get Dave to declare French is his favorite fucking food.
You left me with the fucking suburban Greenwich, Connecticut. Like, fuck. You guys.
Of what's left, what is it, Dave? If all the Mexican food is now in my possession and all the Chinese
I'm going to tell you right now,
I'm
not even going to a fucking continent. I'm going to a specific micro area.
Oh,
okay.
Specific micro area.
Ooh.
Fuck the continents, right? I'm going Basque country.
Northern.
I'm going country. Half the state of Delaware size. And I'm going to say very mighty. We're a grower, not a shower. All right?
Here's the thing. My only argument against this is I think Dave is trying to be more impressive by picking a small region in the Iberian Peninsula. But I would hazard to say, like, you don't even like the food outside of that part of Spain. Like, it's the only good thing in Spain is the Basque region. You don't want anything outside of that.
I don't want Spain. I don't need Spain.
You don't want any of it outside of that. You just
because I mean I get basically some of the best qualities of French food as well. I get its own. Again, for me, I want the weird modern things. When I say weird, I want things that are not like anything else because it is openly taken from its surroundings. And Basque food is its own unique thing, right? Mm-hmm. Of the unique Basque people of Spain, of France, of southwestern France. It's beautiful in and of itself, and it's clean, it's pure. It eats vegetables the way I do, which is zero.
God. Here comes
if they eat a vegetable, it's literally a grilled scallion or leek. Canned asparagus,
eaten in between bites of not vegetable, like
or
that's
vegetables, or it's vegetable as a sauce with red bell pepper that's turned into like pickles, pepper. These are all me.
That's a good save, man. That's a good out of what was left available to you. That's a fucking very good
fucking call. Choosing Italy. Boring.
All right, man.
Paul, we'll get you out of here. We know you're busy. Thank you for taking so much time out of your busy day getting this ready.
What, this is it?
We love you very much. Yeah, dude.
Got to get back to taking photos and lounging around.
And I got to start picking more fights with critics that don't even know I'm picking fights with them.
Oh God, I could just imagine. I could see it right now.
Amazing. Thank you, buddy.
Oh, thanks, guys. Right. It's been great. Deuces.
Well, that was a funny convo with Mr. Paul Carmichael. Yeah, we love him very much, and I'm very excited. I definitely got a sneak peek of Bar Kabawa, and it's going to be fun. And I have no question about him making delicious food. So yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens.
Very laissez-faire.
I don't care.
5 stars.
5 stars. Give us 5 stars.
Whatever.
Give us 5 stars. Thanks, guys. Stay safe out there.